First of all, do you have anything to say about the circumstances under which Christmas would or would not be Christmas?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to run that by me again.
Okay. Are there any circumstances that you can imagine under which Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas?
Oh. Well, yeah, I can think of maybe about 364 of them.
Oh, okay.
I think it would not be Christmas if it were Easter, for one.
Probably not, yeah.
I think, well, I mean, the whole month of July, I think you can say that Christmas can be in July.
Yes.
And I think then it would be Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But any other time, certainly any of the other 11 months, I don't think could be Christmas.
I think one of my friends does a theme party, which I've never actually gone to because I don't live in the same place as him, but it's called Christmas in July and December, which is it's held in December around Christmas time, but it's a Christmas in July themed Christmas party.
I love this idea. This sounds amazing. So do you all wear summer clothing? Is that the idea?
Well, like I said, I've never been to it.
Do they all?
But I think it's like, Hawaiian shirts, and it's like tropical. It's like the decor is like a mix of tropical and Christmas.
And it has to be.
Yeah. But anyhow, Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Mrs. Baddeley's plum pudding. Right.
I guess not. I guess as a result, I've never actually experienced Christmas.
No. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
So what did you think of the Chimes of Midnight?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's this is widely regarded as one of the best Big Finish audios.
Huh. Well, and I believe it. I mean, like I listened to this last night, and so it was, it was dark out. I was in a room where that wasn't like really well lit, and I don't know if that added to the effect, but I just was so creeped out by this. Just like, I mean, like really though. I mean, it's so eerie, this whole thing, like the whole concept, and it's like, and it just gets like more and more eerie as it goes on, and you find out more about the circumstances here. It was just, it was so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very I don't know. It has a very particular tone to it, where it just sticks to it. It just sticks to that tone, and there aren't a lot of like compare it to the Kingmaker, which has like moments of like zaniness and then moments of like turns into darkness, whereas this just starts in one place and it's relentless on that. Like it just never lets up on that sort of dreary, eerie, creepy and they're kooky, altogether ooky kind of tone.
Yeah, really. Well, yeah, and it starts off, kind of lighthearted. The doctor's, saying like, oh, I don't know where we've landed, but this is fun, right? It's fun not knowing where we've landed. It's fun. This is all fun, right? And then it very quickly descends. I mean, obviously, in any episode of Doctor Who ever, the TARDIS lands, everything seems fine at first. Well, I mean, I guess there are occasions where the Doctor lands knowing something's wrong, but more often than not, they land with the intent of having some amount of fun. Maybe not too much fun, but some amount. Some non-negligible amount of fun, and then at some point, either there is some kind of discovery made where they're like, well, that's not right, or hey, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, that's when things start getting dark, and the same is said here, but I feel like it's a way sharper like descent, because it starts off, there's really like no point where it's like. There's no point where you're like where they're like, meeting people and they're like friendly or whatever. I mean, like, I guess, there are moments where some characters are relatively nice to the Doctor and Charlie, but I mean, like, it just gets, I don't know, like, it takes them a while to even meet another human being. Yeah, and by that time, it's really kind of eerie.
Yeah, because the way it kind of starts off, it's they find themselves like falling into this place where there are these characters who are just kind of like cliche almost.
Right.
And so you might right off the bat be tricked into thinking that, oh, this is a little kind of, standard. Oh, they're in like a, a Downton Abbey kind of place.
Right.
But then those characters, they stick to those cliches, and then it becomes like gradually apparent that they are insanely committed to those cliches, and that like it's just like this spiral into madness. I don't know. I usually tend to like my Doctor Who a bit lighter, I guess, like with more humor and more like, oh, fun adventure.
Right.
But this is just like this is a very interesting kind of alternate version of Doctor Who, where it just like grabs hold and like never lets go. It's like we're plunging off of this cliff.
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, it's just, and it's so, and it's, everything is kind of revealed in kind of like a way that just sort of keeps pulling you along. And like they start off like frozen in time, and the Doctor kind of posits that there is some kind of force that is keeping them from interfering or whatever. And then I think it's at the end of the first episode, that force like lets them in, and that's creepy right there. But it's also I love this idea that now we're talking about this mysterious force that we need to identify, and and it keeps going in different directions, just like exploring different like aspects of this, I don't know, this place and stuff, and the events that are happening here. And you don't even find out like where this or what this mysterious force is, like the man behind the curtain or whatever. You don't find out about that until pretty late in the story, and like I forgot that there was some kind of mysterious force because after they're led into the events, then immediately you have even more questions that are raised, like why are these people acting like this? Why is it that they can't remember, Edith? It's like, it's all this stuff just happens one thing right after the next, and it just keeps getting more and more interesting. And I don't know, I loved it.
Yeah, it kind of the first episode is actually it's kind of a ripoff of the first episode of a William Hartnell story called The Space Museum. And in the first episode of The Space Museum, the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Vicky show up in this museum where time around them is frozen, and there's no one there and nothing going on, and they realize that they've kind of like slipped a time track or something weird like that, and they end up seeing their own bodies dead. And it's like a really eerie and interesting first episode, and then the rest of the story is just crap, because then at the end of the first episode they get brought into events, and then the rest of it is just kind of boring, like adventure in a museum where there's like bad guys and there's rebels, and then they end up averting their deaths or whatever. But and this is a story that is much beloved by Rob Shearman, who wrote this story. In fact, on the DVD of The Space Museum, the Space Museum is not a very well-liked story, but he has his own featurette on the DVD where he explains why it's brilliant. Just Rob Shearman defends this story is the entire concept behind that featurette.
That's awesome.
And so I have to imagine he consciously like lifted from that whole Hartnell era. Like they get out of the TARDIS, they have no idea where they are, they try to explore, try to figure things out. But this is just it goes to like much more interesting places than Doctor Who stories usually go.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing about, or that's certainly the thing I've noticed about expanded media that we've listened to is, or read or whatever, is that it does seem a little bit more, I don't know, I guess I want to say like adult. I don't know if that's really the right word, but than the TV show typically is. I do like what what writers can do with that, where they have more flexibility in terms of not needing to be kind of maybe just like toned down a little bit for their broader audience. but I also like that idea that Rob Sherman was just like, well, this is a cool concept for a story. Let me see if I can make it better. And I'm completely on board with that, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like, I feel like that's like a valid thing, is if you're gonna rip off a story idea, you should at least make it a good one, and like make it, especially if like the story you're ripping off from was like terrible, then I think you almost have a duty to say, all right, well, I like this idea, but I think it deserves better than this.
This is actually not by a long shot the weirdest, darkest, or most disturbing thing Rob Shearman wrote for Big Finish Doctor Who.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would be very interested to know how you get, eerier and weirder than this.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of other really great ones he wrote. One is called The Holy Terror, which is a story with the Sixth Doctor and Frobisher, the shape-shifting penguin, which is strange in some similar ways to this. It has a kind of similar feel to this almost, although it is a little sillier and funnier. And then there's Jubilee, which was the basis of Dalek, which Rob Shearman also wrote.
Right.
Yeah, and which was a little bit more in this vein. It was actually more similar to this than it is to Dalek. But then probably the most crazy thing he ever wrote was this thing called Scherzo, which is a story featuring the Eighth Doctor and Charlie a little bit farther along in their storyline. Kind of, it's the aftermath of everything blowing up in terms of Charlie's weird situation with being rescued from her own death. That sort of builds to a climax. And then he does the story that's immediately after that climax, which is just a story where the only actors are Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor and India Fisher as Charlie. And they're the only characters in the story, or at least they're the only actors in the story. But it's a very strange and disturbing 2 hours.
That sounds cool. Yeah, and I that's another thing, is I really like the implication that there were a lot of problems with the Doctor plucking Charlie out of her timeline and avoiding her own death. Like, that's a neat concept that that's a concept on par with like a concept I would expect from the TV show, like for a story arc, for like a season arc, like. That's really cool. It's
very much like the new series kind of story arc thing. And I think it may have been partially like the inspiration of it, because the notion of Charlie was a big deal when they first did stories with her, because the first companion Big Finish made wasn't actually Charlie. They made up their own companion called Evelyn for the Sixth Doctor. But Charlie was a companion for the Eighth Doctor who, during the first couple of years Big Finish operated, they didn't have the Eighth Doctor, and no one knew if they were ever going to get him. And then they finally did, so they were doing their own Eighth Doctor era, where they're pushing Doctor Who forward, trying new things, and we're not just filling in the cracks between stories, we're actually forging ahead. And so the Eighth Doctor and Charlie was essentially new Doctor Who. This was the current series for all intents and purposes.
Right.
So it's something that I think Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat were both really aware of, and I think there's at some point where RTD said that like a lot of the stuff he tried with Rose was kind of not necessarily inspired by, but sort of it kind of grew out of the ambition of the Eighth Doctor era on audio. And Moffat has actually at one point, when he was asked to name his favorite story from each Doctor, this was named as his favorite Eighth Doctor story. His favorite story, period, not audio story. His favorite story. I mean, it's kind of a slight against the TV movie that you go with the spin-off audio, but I think this is unquestionably better than the TV movie, so I can't fault him there.
Yeah. Well, and also that's kind of I mean, like, if you when you ask that question, though, or rather when you are asked that question, you almost can't answer the TV movie, because that's like the only official. Well, I say official. I don't really know how official any of it is, but it's the most official. Canon, if you will, Eighth Doctor story, and arguably the only Eighth Doctor story if you want to ignore like half of Doctor Who media.
Yeah, well, and certainly at the time, I mean, this was prior to Night of the Doctor, and if he wanted to, I'm sure he could say, "Oh, my favorite one's the one I wrote."
But, yeah, why not? But yeah, so I feel like if you were to reply with the Eighth Doctor movie, that's like the blandest possible answer. That's like saying,
it's admitting defeat,
right? It's like saying if you had one wish, you'd wish for world peace.
Yeah, if someone says, out of all the Eighth Doctor stories, which one's your favorite one? It almost feels like they're trying to box you into a story for which there is only one option. So the only noble way to counteract that is to expand it to all the audios, novels, and comics.
Yeah,
but yeah, the only non-televised stories that he picked on that list were for the Sixth Doctor. He picked Rob Shearman's The Holy Terror, and for the Eighth Doctor, he picked Rob Shearman's the Chimes of Midnight. So I don't know why he hasn't gotten Rob Shearman to write an episode yet.
Yeah, right. Because as far as I'm aware, was Dalek the last episode he wrote?
It was the only episode he wrote.
Right,
the only televised episode.
Jeez, yeah, come on. Yeah, if he could, yeah.
He's not like a big time television writer, and Doctor Who tends to use more experienced TV writers. But he's written, he's written audios. Obviously, he's written short stories and plays as well. He's a playwright, and I think the fact that he's a playwright, a lot of this feels like something I would see in a theater, like the Chimes of Midnight. It feels kind of like something that would come out of like avant-garde theater.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, it's so yeah, I would love to see him. He hasn't done anything Doctor Who related since I don't know, probably like 2007, 2008 or something.
Yeah.
So he says on his Tumblr he mentioned that he's now working with Big Finish to develop some kind of story idea for the future, but I don't know if that's gone anywhere.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I would really love to see him write for the TV show. I mean, because if he could bring even just like an ounce of the eeriness and just the weirdness that he's shown here, I think it would turn out great.
Yeah, and I mean Dalek isn't anything like that tone.
No, right.
But it's still obviously wonderful in its own right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's yeah. So I'd always love to see more from Rob Shearman.
Yeah, really.
What did you think of Charlie?
I guess, I am kind of a sucker for companions that are from a different time. Mm-hmm. So I really liked her because I thought it was interesting how they, how we sort of got a little bit of her backstory here. Like, oh yeah, I this is like the house that my father had or whatever. And, we're finding out bits of her life. And I mean, I don't know how much this was explored in other stories because obviously this is the first one I've encountered. But no, I liked it, and I find it. I don't know. I find it interesting. I like it.
Yeah, I like the character a lot. Yeah. There are some people who find her annoying.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's because like if she's very posh and upper classy, and also like, oh, Doctor, what's that? No. Like very I don't know, deeply earnest in everything she says and does.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that after the companion they chose for the Eighth Doctor after Charlie was Lucy.
Right.
Who we've listened to some Lucy stories, and Lucy's the exact opposite of that. She's very down to earth, kind of sarcastic and cynical, and kind of a lower middle class northerner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. And what it might be is I'm maybe approaching it backwards because, yeah, obviously we listened to the Lucy stories before we listened to this. And also, I'm used to the new series where a lot of the companions are kind of not lower class, but they're more down to earth. And they're not quite as, upper class, I guess. And so to that end, I kind of enjoyed this. I kind of enjoyed someone who's a little bit more, a little more upper class. I mean, I guess, but also because typically I feel like, I can't think of a good example of this, so maybe there isn't one, but I feel like a lot of the times you get someone who's like upper class and they turn out to be like elitist, and I feel like you get minor characters on Doctor Who aren't necessarily like companions, but they sort of stick around with the Doctor for the episode or even less than a full episode, but they're either elitist or they're some other kind of snob where they're looking down on other people or something, and the doctor's like stuck with them, but he doesn't really like them. And so I like getting someone who's not a jerk, who's also kind of posher, I guess.
Right. She's definitely she's much kinder to others and more accepting of other people's, but also she's a little bit like oblivious of Edith, especially.
Yeah.
Like you end up finding out that the fact that she showed some small kindnesses to Edith was like one of the most important things that ever happened in Edith's life, but it's something that she barely even thought worth remembering.
Yeah. So
it's interesting because she is like a kinder person, but she's not like a great social crusader or anything like that.
Well, that's true.
So I think she's a very interesting character, and I think one of the reasons she was unpopular with some people is because at the time it was not the norm for like a major ongoing storyline to focus on the companion, whereas that's now like
that's par for the course.
That's the norm.
Yeah.
That was the norm. It was with Rose, with Martha and Donna, and definitely with the Moffat companions.
Right.
So yeah. And another thing is later on in the story there are strong implications of romantic feelings from her towards the Doctor. Which I guess fans didn't like back in the day, but nowadays it's a little different.
Well, right. I don't know if fans have started to like that concept. I think it's more of just an acceptance.
Well, some fans love it.
Well, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. So they actually this character is kind of still active at Big Finish after her time with the Eighth Doctor. They did a really weird thing where they put her with the Sixth Doctor.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah, and she didn't tell him that she knew him from his future, and that all kind of wrapped up in a weird way. Yeah, and then they gave her own spin-off series.
Oh, cool. The spin-off series, is that like still ongoing?
Yeah, it just started like last year.
Oh, okay.
And they're putting out another series of it this year.
Huh. So is it just like kind of the same? Is it like kind of what you'd expect from a spin-off where like she's on her own but she's also fighting monsters or whatever?
Yeah, it's still a sci-fi series,
yeah.
Obviously. But it's kind of like she's off on her own as this adventurous who's plucky and everything, but she's a little bit more I don't know, independent, I guess. But yeah, they have done a lot with her character.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah, and this story is usually considered the highlight of the Eighth Doctor's run at Big Finish, and actually, which is I think that's probably pretty true because it's a really good story, and it's a good story for them.
Yeah, no, really. Well, I like how this does deal with Charlie's backstory, but it makes me want to. I do want to find out more about like what's going on here, and like just in general, like more about. Yeah, I don't know. I do want to see how this fits in. Although I guess if this is the highlight, then I mean there
are other good stories.
Yeah.
But it does build to a climax after this where the problems with the Doctor, rescuing someone, come to a head, and the Time Lords get involved. And there's this story called Zagreus, which is a massive. I want to say it's almost 4 hours long.
Oh wow!
Because it's like 3 discs, but each disc is more than an hour, and it's a lot of people just absolutely hate it. Because it's a little bit nonsensical and over the top, full of like weird stuff. But I kind of like it, even though I acknowledge that it's not good. I just like it.
Right. You don't have to think something's good in order to like it.
Right.
So what happened? Was it just that it is it like that the way they go about like solving this problem is just goofy, or should I just like listen to it myself and find out?
You kind of may need to like there's this thing called like anti-time that becomes involved, and
all right.
Like Romana gets involved, and there's all these Time Lords who are erased from history, and then Rassilon gets involved, and then this ancient evil Time Lord myth called Zagreus maybe possesses the Doctor, or maybe the Doctor becomes him, or it's all very confusing. Oh, and the TARDIS turns evil.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but I just like it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, yeah, I don't know, because like this is such an interesting concept. I feel bad that it isn't like wrapped up in like an even more interesting way. Although, you know,
it's interesting. The way it's wrapped up is interesting.
All right, well, yeah, I guess in all fairness, what you described does sound very interesting. So, you know, I don't want to imply that it's not interesting, but I don't know. Huh.
Yeah, if you wanted to sort of get a sense of where this story started, the beginning of it is Storm Warning.
Oh, okay.
Which is the Doctor first encounters Charlie on the airship R101.
Oh, right.
And then where it kind of leads to, it culminates in the 2-hour audio Neverland, followed by the 4-hour audio Zagreus, followed by Scherzo, the Rob Shearman one that picks up the pieces of Zagreus and is really freaking weird and awesome.
There you go.
So how do you like Paul McGann?
You know, I really like Paul McGann. I really I like just in general. I think he's just such a good Doctor. You know, he's almost a classic series Doctor, but he's like, I don't know, he really is like kind of halfway in between, because I feel like, I don't know, he you know, there are times where he does kind of remind me of like the Ninth Doctor, where he can be serious but also kind of joking at the same time. Mm-hmm. Which I don't, and that's kind of the thing. I think we touched upon this when we were talking about Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. Is that, you know, we haven't really gotten that so much since with, well, I mean, at least not with the 10th and 11th Doctors. And I mean, like, you know, the 12th Doctor's kind of just serious in a different way, I guess. But I don't know. I really like this kind of Doctor, where, you know, he has this sort of like wry wit, and, you know, he can be serious, but also, I don't know, he can also be sarcastic and stuff. And I feel like that's not something you get. I don't think we've really seen that since.
Yeah. He'll like maintain this sort of like the sort of drama of it, but like toss off a joke.
Yeah.
While maintaining the drama. He doesn't go like full Tom Baker, like
right.
Weird, wide-eyed, nor does he like ham it up or anything like that.
Right.
He'll just like do, for instance, like he'll be talking to Mr. what was it, Shaughnessy, I think, and then say, "Oh yes, I expect he just took his car out took his car from outside, drove it in here, ran over himself, and then parked it back outside again."
Yeah. I loved that, because, you know, he'd been you know, fighting so hard to convince everyone that these were all murders, because everyone kept insisting they were suicides, and then that was like the breaking point where he finally just caved in and was like, "Yeah, you know what? This was a suicide." And I love how he completely just turned it like that, and that was just like perfect. And he didn't like, you know, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't get mad, he didn't, you know, overact or whatever. You know, he just very calmly was like, "Yeah, you know what? This is a suicide," and it was perfect. It was just, I loved it.
Yeah, it's like he and Charlie they seem like the only sane people in a world that's going madder and madder all the time.
Yeah.
Like in this story, and he just has this, like, you can't kind of imagine Tom Baker as the only sane person in a world that's gone mad.
I don't think that he ever. Yeah, I that seems to be like the opposite of the stories that you'd put Tom Baker in.
Yeah, nor can you even imagine, like, say John Pertwee, because he or Sylvester McCoy, because they're both a little too over the top. Like maybe Peter Davison could do that, and I think there's something a little bit Peter Davison-esque about how Paul McGann plays it too. Yeah, it's very I don't know. It's just such an interesting situation to put that Doctor in, and he just does such a good job of performing it. He just does really well with this kind of material, I find.
Yeah.
And it's another interesting thing is like how, I don't know, how he manages not to go to pieces while Charlie is kind of going to pieces.
Right.
And she's like wearing her fear on her sleeve and being like very, you know, earnest and straightforward towards everything that's happening, and like trying to like she almost like tries to reason with people, like she tries to convince people like of who's died and who hasn't.
Yeah.
Whereas he's trying his hardest to like roll with the punches as they come.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of interesting to watch or hear rather that whole process happen over the course of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Like, yeah, he really like holds it together. You know, like even yeah, I don't know. Like I'm thinking of like Midnight, where you know you see as the situation escalates, and you know there's like this terrifying, you know, sort of mob mentality that's happening around the Doctor. The Doctor himself is getting like more anxious, you know, as everyone's like turning on him and stuff. And you know that just like none of that happens here. You know, the Doctor is just completely. He has like this complete laser focus on like, you know, just what he needs to get done and like what his objective is. And it's just, yeah, like he's so like even keeled or he at the very least gives that appearance that he's just totally even keeled.
Right.
But yeah, no. Yeah, it's just, yeah. I love it. Yeah. I really wish, I mean, I don't know what would have happened had Paul McGann actually gotten like a television series or two, but I really wish I could have seen what it was. Like I would have loved for that to have actually happened, or at least, you know, if the stories were anything like this. But yeah, because I don't know how much of this characterization was in the TV movie. I feel like not a whole lot.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because how you want to characterize the Eighth Doctor. I mean, there are a lot of places you could go from the TV movie.
That's true.
And I think the comics, audios, and novels just went in their own different directions. But, you know, obviously with the audios, you have the benefit of having the actor there to sort of go on that journey with you.
Right.
And so you can sort of write to the actor's strengths, whereas if you're writing a book, I mean, you're doing whatever you want without any regard to the actor. So.
Right. Huh. Yeah. If they could have done a TV show that was precisely like how Paul McGann does the audios, then I would want to see that. But yeah. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if he were to come back in some capacity for the show, for whatever, you know, excuse that the writers can think of to bring him back, you know, I would like to believe, especially now that I know that Moffat is a fan of, you know, these audios, I would hope that you know any further TV appearances would be more of this type of story or more of this type of characterization, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, but yeah, wow. I really do. I really like the Eighth Doctor.
Yeah. He's a good one.
He really is. Well, and I mean that's the thing is, you know, it's crazy that like all of the actors who have played the Doctor, you know, bring something unique to it, and you know, they're all like you can appreciate each one, and you know, I don't know, it's just so great.
So if there's one thing that people tend to criticize about this story, there are some people who find the repeated dialogue annoying.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you feel that way at all?
No, not really. I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, I thought it just kind of like drove home the idea. I mean, I guess there are other ways that you could figure out that this was a time loop, but I thought that just kind of drove it home, and I thought it was like fitting. And it, you know, it made sense. I mean, I guess you could say that, like, well, yeah, it's fitting, but it's still annoying. I mean, those aren't mutually exclusive.
Right. Yeah. I just thought it was, you know, it was effective in like trying to get across what they were trying to do, both in terms of like the plot and also just the mood of like I don't know. It's almost like annoying in a way that works for the story. Like, right. It makes you kind of want to like. It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it just gives you the feeling like you're along with the Doctor being just led around and around in circles.
Yeah. No, I wasn't bothered by that at all. I mean, I could see it being bothersome like on subsequent listenings. Like I might get bothered by it because everything is already being repeated to me, and so now I'm getting additional repetitions. So maybe that would bother me, but like.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my personal experience, I can say that it hasn't bothered me on subsequent listens. Huh. Since I've listened to it like probably at least 4 times now. Huh. So yeah, it's doing fine so far.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, I mean, like I guess I understand that complaint, but I didn't have it. I was not bothered by it at all.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm struggling to remember anything I've ever heard negative about this story, and I think that's probably the one.
Well, I certainly didn't have anything negative to say about this story. Like, there's really nothing that stuck out to me as being, undesirable.
I mean, this is barely even a criticism, but I think the quality of the guest actors is like there's no real standout performances other than the two stars.
Yeah,
and so it's always nice to have like a Doctor Who story that has interesting guest actors, but that almost like it's like that almost seems like a who cares kind of thing, because they kind of shouldn't be in this story, should they?
Well, right. Like, I mean, because as far as I know, or as far as I understand, basically, like, the only other quote-unquote real character, was Edith. Everyone else was, as far as my interpretation went, they were all, like, everyone else was basically, like, a fiction invented by Edith.
Well, I think they were the real people who lived in that time where they landed.
Oh, okay.
But they were also, like, being amalgamated with other versions of those people that she'd known throughout her life.
Right.
So, like, they landed in, 1906?
Yeah.
At the end of the story, like, you see the real Edith and the real Mr. Shaughnessy.
Right.
And Charlie kind of forces him to compliment Edith.
All right.
And I kind of wonder whether the implication was that, like, that initial act of kindness, like, predisposed Edith to make Charlie more significant in her life or something like that.
Oh.
Like almost like it's a causal loop there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but... this is on listening number 4 or 5 or whatever, where I guess I've probably gotten most of what I'm going to get out of the story. So maybe I'm just reaching or something. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. But
well, yeah, because that's weird that you put it that way, because what I thought when I listened to it was that kind of nudged her, because I kind of felt like, oh, here's this person has only ever had one person be nice to her. Mm-hmm. And she's like derived all her self-worth, like all of her self-worth has been attached to this one person. And so when that person dies, that's when you get this sort of, this series of tragic events that leads up to, her committing suicide. And so like instilling in her like an exterior sense of self-worth, like I kind of felt like, oh, is this going to avert that? Like, now she isn't depending upon Charlie. I mean, like, well, she is effectively still depending upon Charlie, but she's not depending upon like her Charlie, in a sense, to provide her with self-worth, because now she knows that just anybody can compliment her. Because it sort of like flips at the end, because the whole story is that, like, kind of that repeated idea that, like, oh, I'm worthless, I'm nothing. And then at the very end, she sort of has this realization that, oh, well, no, she's worth something, And so, I don't know, I kind of interpreted that as being like shifting the derivation of self-worth away from Charlie and into, like, I don't know.
But it's still from Charlie.
Well, it is still from Charlie, but it's also like a realization that, like, well, because obviously, Edith was still feeling like she was worth nothing. That's kind of weird. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's like the idea that, like, someone who was extremely critical of her was forced to compliment her. Maybe like that flipped it for her, as opposed to just Charlie seemingly being the only person who provided her with any worth. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm no psychologist, so I don't. Take literally everything I'm saying with, just nothing but grains of salt. But I don't know. To me, like, I wonder if that's like, or if that's what that was supposed to be, was sort of nudging it away from just being sourced from one single person. I mean, yeah, effectively it is still from one single person, but maybe this was just enough of a nudge in a different direction. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I hate to be a downer, but
okay.
There are other stories set after this that reference the fact that that Edith committed suicide.
Oh.
Yeah, because there's like the first series of the Charlotte Pollard spinoff has a series where you sort of check back in with her family and see how Charlie's family is doing, thinking Charlie's dead. And it's mentioned that her mother, found Edith's body. So, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm not really necessarily sure that that makes sense with this story, because I can't really decide, looking at this story on its own terms, whether this story determines that should have been averted, or whether... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I also don't know if I really understand. So they land inside of a time loop, and I guess and the idea was that the suicide was like a powerful emotional event that caused the time loop, like that, like the Doctor talks about the theory that houses can absorb like the events or whatever if they're like traumatic enough or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea is that the time loop is created when the TARDIS lands with an alive Charlie who would meet Edith, even though this Edith is much younger than Charlie ever knew her, because of Edith's eventual suicide. So even though that suicide is still years and years in the future from Edith's perspective, the fact of Edith meeting or being in the same place with a Charlie who survived the R101 when she was meant to have died, that causes a paradox which traps the TARDIS inside of the time loop.
Okay. And so, all right, but then when one of the times that Edith dies, Charlie is able to like communicate with her after she's died. Actually, I think this happens several times, but
yeah. She keeps communicating with
with
an older Edith, who she notes. She comments, "Oh, you look much older now."
Oh,
so
right.
this Edith sort of changes her form to appear years older.
Okay, so we get like some kind of psychic connection across time.
That I think is what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, right, and at one point, Edith seems to, or what she's saying is that, she doesn't know if she lives or dies because she doesn't know if Charlie is alive or dead. Right, and that's like towards the end is, Charlie's about to take her own life, and that's when the Doctor comes and stops her. And you could say that this was some kind of like psychic, I don't know, whatever, some sort of link to Edith, like after she's, or as she's like losing consciousness or whatever, as she's dying, this sort of like feeds back or whatever. And so maybe like, yeah, I don't know. I can't.
It's like it's some kind of like specter of Edith.
Yeah.
Between realities, one in which she lived and one in which she died.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's like an unstable.
Yeah.
Edith.
Yeah. So I don't even know. Yeah. Because you can't.
I mean, it's not too specific about the mechanics of exactly what's happening here.
Right. So right, and as a result, I guess we can't really know what kind of outcome this, I don't know, like alteration would have.
Right.
I guess none. I guess we could say is that like this is still gonna play out as it. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, actually, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, knowing that she's definitely dead in the spin-off, it makes a lot of sense that this would just be like imprinting this sort of dependence on Charlie here.
Oh, that's really depressing.
Yeah, that is really depressing. But I mean, like, how else are we gonna work around it? I mean, unless like things would have been way worse had this not been done. Like if, I can't think of how it could be worse, but I mean,
I wonder if Rob Shearman would answer if I sent him a Tumblr ask. He's answered some of my Tumblr asks before. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the author is dead, not literally, but like
Right.
The notion of like authorial intent isn't what really matters. But it'd just be interesting to know as like a behind the scenes fact, just because I'm kind of curious to know what he intended, because it seems to me that there are two very different ways of reading that ending scene. One that's like very uplifting and one that's just very depressing.
No, right, obviously. Well, yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like the depressing one, I hate to say it, makes a lot more sense.
It makes a lot more sense with what comes after.
Right, with the exterior knowledge that that did happen. Unless it was like, I don't know, maybe it was a fixed point, and maybe she was framed or the suicide was staged. Sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah, who knows? Because that's pretty much all that happens in this story. So maybe this story somehow also influenced her in the future, so that like Actually, I don't even know how that would work.
Maybe it was a Tesselecta.
Maybe it was a Tesselecta. It could. That's always a possibility. Really, like there's probably there can be no more death in Doctor Who because
maybe Adric was a Tesselecta.
I think he probably was. I think
which explains like evil Scorpion King Adric.
Yes, I think that's got to be it.
Yeah, because if you were the Doctor at the end of Series 6, having just successfully averted your own death using a Tesselecta, I mean, wouldn't the first thing you'd think of after that would be like, well, geez, I wonder who else I can rescue?
Right, like, sky's the limit. This is basically like a little... Right, you've basically, like, the Tesselecta, I guess, is supposed to punish people who were never punished enough, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, hey, why not just use it as a big retcon machine and just go back and retcon whatever you feel like. And in fact, because, the Tesselecta is shown to basically change size, I mean, you could even say that the Tesselecta could just mimic Gallifrey and then have the Daleks blow up the Tesselecta. And Gallifrey could be inside the Tesselecta. And yeah. There you go. Problem solved. No moment needed.
Wow. Writing stories is very easy when you have a Tesselecta.
It is so easy. It's great.
I've never had plum pudding.
Well, here's the thing, nor I, and I didn't know you could have pieces of it. Like, I am so in the dark vis-a-vis plum pudding that I did not know that it was something that was served in pieces. Because they say, like, have a piece of plum pudding or whatever. I figured it was just like, regular pudding where it was like an amorphous blob. But I guess not.
Well, pudding...
It's more like bread pudding, I guess.
Pudding means something different in the UK from what it means in the US. In the US, when we think of pudding...
We think of like Jell-O pudding.
We think of like little cups with tinfoil covers that say Jell-O on them that you peel back, and there's some chocolate goop in there.
Yes.
And you stick a spoon in there, and you put it into your little 5-year-old mouth.
I think I've had Jell-O pudding far more recently than 5 years old, but
me too. But I always feel like I'm like a tiny little child when I take a little spoon and eat some chocolate pudding out of a prepackaged cup.
Right, you revert.
Exactly.
It's like System Restore.
But pudding refers more generally to sweet and or savory dessert items, I guess.
Okay.
So plum pudding is, I think, more like a fruitcake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know about UK English. I know it's the Queen's English, but they're really vague when it comes to certain words. Can't you just have more words? Why do you have to have like a catch-all for pudding? I mean, come on.
Yeah, Christmas pudding is a type of pudding traditionally served as part of the Christmas dinner in Britain and in some other countries where it has been brought by British immigrants. Its origins in medieval England, and it's sometimes known as plum pudding or just pud.
Pud. All right.
Though this can also refer to other kinds of boiled pudding involving dried fruit. Pudding is composed of many dried fruits held together. Yeah, these don't... I can't really tell what exactly this is like. I can't really compare it to anything. I'm looking at the Wikipedia for Christmas pudding, which is sometimes known as plum pudding. So I assume that's what this is, seeing as it is Christmas, and Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Mrs. Baddeley's plum pudding. Yeah. Yeah, I've never had it, and I don't know why you'd put threepenny bits in it.
What? I don't know what that is even.
Well, a threepenny is like, it's like a coin, right?
Oh.
Like a 3.
Oh, right, because they pronounce things weird over there. Or not even weird, but I mean, like okay.
It's a 3-pence coin,
3
right?
Pence, right. Wow, threepenny. That makes sense now. I didn't even know what they were saying.
Like tuppence and threepence.
Yes, right. Obviously. Wow, okay, huh, yeah.
That's not a term in common parlance in the United States of America.
No,
we don't have threepenny bits. We don't even have 3-cent coins.
No, we don't.
Or 2-cent coins, for that matter.
No, not at all. Well, hang on. So I am also looking at the Christmas pudding Wikipedia page, and I guess this is just what we're doing now. Is we're just both obviously surfing Wikipedia. It says right here under the section "Wishing and Other Traditions." It was common practice to include small silver coins in the pudding mixture.
Oh, okay.
Which could be kept by the person whose serving included them. The usual choice was a silver 3p or a 6p.
Ah, so that explains it.
Yeah, the coin was believed to bring wealth in the coming year. So there you go.
So it's now explained to me. I don't.
So it's like a fortune cookie almost.
But you put money in it. You put actual fortune in it.
Oh, this sounds gross.
Yeah, the notion of like putting money into a food, it just doesn't. I mean, if that's the tradition, then that's the tradition. I mean,
yes.
But it's just such an odd notion to me because we don't have anything like that in America, and as far as I know, we've never had that widespread. I mean, I'm sure there are,
I think we had better hygiene.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, all right.
I'm sure there were at some point people who came over here from England and did that.
I guess.
With whatever American coins they happen to have, like a buffalo nickel or whatever.
I don't know. I hope they washed those coins.
I hope so.
Soaked them in brandy, maybe something to kill off something. Oh, ugh. I don't know.
And as Charlie mentions here, like if you bite into them without expecting it, then that can be painful.
Yeah.
And cause dental issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to evoke any like cliches about British people having bad teeth, but maybe this is why.
Maybe if they just stopped putting coinage in their food, maybe one problem would solve another.
Yeah.
Well, thank God I read this Wikipedia article. Now I know if anyone offers me plum pudding, I know to be on the lookout. Take small bites, and sort of like gum it maybe a little. I'm assuming people would still throw coins in there. I don't know. Do they don't have the pence anymore, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, I thought that. Oh, I guess they kept them when they switched to metric. Was that like?
Well, yeah, that's their. That's their.
That's
their. 1/100th of a pound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, so nowadays they say like, p. Like, oh, that only costs 6p or whatever.
Well, pence is a lot to say.
Yeah, I know. You wouldn't want to say all that, would you?
No. Well, I also imagine it's not terribly useful because I mean, I imagine. Well, I guess the pound is worth more than the dollar. I think still, even to this day.
Yeah.
So as a result, I guess it could be that things are regularly sold to the amount of like where it would be under a pound. Like, I mean, I don't know what you can buy for less than a pound. I don't know, a candy bar maybe or something. I don't know. And anyway, I guess there is still cause to have a parlance involving p. I guess they can't just round up to the nearest pound for stuff because then you can just say quid. That's I think the term, right? It's 2 quid or whatever. That's a fun. Quid is a fun word to say.
Yeah, we don't get to say it that much over here.
No, we don't.
They don't know how good they have it over there.
Yeah, really. Like they're just dropping quids.
Yeah.
It's oh man.
I just looked up when Bentley was founded.
Oh yeah.
Bentley Motors, and it was after this story is set anyway. So
it couldn't have been a Chrysler or a Bentley.
Yeah, it could not have been either of those.
Well, right, because what did they have back then? They I know that like the American equivalent was like the Model T or whatever.
Yeah, whatever Ford was putting out at that time, but I don't know what they had in the UK.
Well, right, like was Jaguar a manufacturer?
Could have been Rolls-Royce.
Oh, Rolls-Royce, yeah, that they were like super old, right?
Whenever I think of Rolls-Royce, this is unrelated to anything at all. Whenever I think of Rolls-Royce, I think of the fact that I think it was The Subtle Knife, there's a character who is referred to as the old man in the Rolls-Royce, which is just such a wonderful sounding phrase. The old man in the Rolls-Royce, which in my mind transferred into the old man in the Rolls-Royce.
Right, that follows. That's logical.
Anyhow, I'm glad I've shared that. Anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that needed to come out just now, but
Rolls-Royce apparently was founded in 1906.
Oh wow! So it would be brand new at this point.
Yeah, really, really brand new. Or okay, wait, no, it says founded in 1906. The result of a partnership formed in 1904. But okay, so that means they wouldn't be making cars in 1904. They would start that in 1906.
Yeah, you don't want to start too early.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't want to.
You gotta take your time.
Yeah, I think it's a gradual process. Okay, so then what the hell were they driving in 1906? Like, I mean, I guess
I don't know.
probably a company that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know how
Does Rolls-Royce exist anymore? Is that still around?
If nothing else, they're making plane engines.
Oh, well, good for them.
I think they're still a company though. What are they doing? If they are still doing cars, I have no idea.
Scroll to the bottom, and there's British car industry companies and marks.
Oh,
So it looks like.
Oh wow, and the timeline, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
I like Wolseley.
Wolseley. That sounds like a posh. Actually, no. It sounds like a servant. But
it sounds like the cat in Paul Cornell's Human Nature.
Hey, how about that? Maybe they were driving a cat. Sunbeam. That's adorable.
Aw, that's cute. Don't they make like refrigerators now?
They got really off the beaten path.
Or something? I don't know. They make some kind of appliances. Or maybe there's just a different company that has a similar name.
It's possible. Yeah. So they were driving something, but it wasn't a name we would recognize.
Right.
Oh, wait, hang on. Because there's what? I don't know. You know what? I don't want to get into car manufacturer history. This is just I can't. Or I'm already beginning to hate myself.
You know, I'm sure somewhere out there on the internet there's an antique British motor industry podcast that people can listen to if they want to hear more of that.
Yeah.
And I wonder what they would think of the Chimes of Midnight.
I would love to hear that. You know, I don't know. This is probably one of those things where you'd hear it and you'd get hung up on it because you know so much more about this. Like whenever, there's like whenever they show hacking in any TV show and it's just people typing really fast and whoever types the fastest. Like I imagine it would be the same kind of thing if you know anything about cars when you hear this. Cause,
Well, the thing is that the Chrysler and the Bentley thing doesn't need to make sense.
That's true.
Neither of them has to be correct in order for the story to make sense.
That's very true. You know what? Yeah, this is fine. Unless they were like a real pedant, I'm sure these car history buffs would get a kick out of the Chimes of Midnight.
It's the magic of good fiction. It can reach pretty much anyone, even if they're a classic British automobile pedant.
Yeah, and there are so many of those.
Yeah, and I definitely do recommend Shearman's other Big Finish audios.
Yeah,
including the Holy Terror is actually it's basically standalone because it's the only story they'd ever did with Six and Frobisher.
Huh.
Well, that's not true. They did like this other thing called The Maltese Penguin with Six and Frobisher, which was also written by Rob Shearman but isn't very good.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think it was very good.
Oh, well, because I like the title.
Yeah, it is a good title.
Yeah, like to me, like that's enough to draw me in. So, that's disappointing that it's actually not that great.
No, I don't like it at all.
That's too bad.
I think some people like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think there are people who like it. I really don't. It was really disappointing to me after loving The Holy Terror. And I was like, oh, wow, there's another Six Frobisher story that's written by Rob Shearman. How awesome. And then it was just dull.
So do you think maybe the people who like it never actually listened to The Holy Terror?
Maybe, I don't know. The Holy Terror actually was not well liked at all when it was released.
Oh.
In fact, it was despised by many. It was one of their
Really?
least popular releases at the time, I believe.
Huh.
I think the reason for that is because it was only the 14th Big Finish audio.
Oh.
And at the time, I guess Big Finish audios were a little bit more of a precious commodity or something. And the notion that, they're devoting this entire thing to this silly thing with a penguin. And that notion seems, I don't know, I guess people were offended by it or something. I don't know if offended is the right word, but yeah, people were not happy about the fact that this audio existed, and there was zero demand for ever bringing Frobisher back. But in the years since then, it has become a lot more popular.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, now I really want to listen to it just so I can have an opinion on it.
No, I think it's $10 is a sawbuck.
Okay, so what's a 20 then?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know if it has its own name.
You'd think that like the higher denominations all would.
Well, I mean, you got Benjamins.
Benjamins, that's true. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. As long as they don't ever change it. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that locks us in.
It does. It really does. Unless like you just swap it out with another Benjamin.
Oh, true, Benjamin Button.
Right. Exactly.
To commemorate that film.
Right. You know, because I think that's big.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Cost a lot of Benjamins to make that movie.
Yeah, that's how it works. You know, you spend enough of these, you get your face on it.
Yeah. Oh, that should be how it works.
Yeah, really. I see no downsides to that system.
No, none at all.